A bird came down the walk. Dickinson explores the relationship between nature and humans. The speaker describes a bird as it walks down the path. Nature is described sometimes as beautiful, but sometimes as savage. Dickinson's fascination with nature contradicts Dickinson's reclusive nature. There is a conversational tone throughout, as though Dickinson is relaying a story. Dickinson subverts this tone as the poem becomes more poetic and graceful in the final stanza.
The bird in the poem becomes an emblem for the quick, lively, ungraspable wild essence that distances nature from the human beings that desire to appropriate it or tame it. Dickinson herself perfectly juxtaposes elements of superficial gentility against the inner barbarity that characterises the workings of the world. For example, in the first stanza, she uses the worm that the bird decides to eat, as she uses the adjective to describe it as raw, and this shows a stark difference between civilised humans and nature itself. In the second stanza, she purposely says that he was drinking from a grass, and this contrasts human conventions with those of nature, as if she's trying to appropriate it, and also politely allowing a beetle to pass, as if, because that's quite a social convention to allow someone to pass before you. And then again in stanza 3, she describes the bird in terms of civilization. So she uses the words beads and velvet, and these are obviously elements of grandeur. So again, she's trying to appropriate.
In the final stanza, Dickinson subverts the tone of the entire poem, which goes from being informal and conversational to being poetic and linguistically fascinating. Dickinson begins to introduce metaphors such as the oars divide the ocean. This depicts the smooth motion of rowing and helps to imagine the nature of the bird's movement. The enjambment throughout this final stanza gives it a smooth, interrupted flow, creating a sense of awe towards the bird, whereas previously the speaker was more critical of nature. The poem concludes on a positive note, with the thought of the bird taking gracefully to the air. The alliteration of oars and ocean, silver and seam, butterflies and banks adds to the superb image of the bird effortlessly taking off.